Good morning. This is Jim Moore, and you are watching Justice for America. It's September. Yesterday I said it was August. Today it's September 5th, 2023, and this is episode number 60. I want to remind you that we have two YouTube channels. One is for words of encouragement, and one is for this program, Justice for America, that we do on Tuesdays. So somebody asked me, they said, what do you mean by Justice for America? Somebody said, well, we don't want justice, we want mercy. Well, sometimes mercy is God's justice. And sometimes, God can look at the big picture. Now, this is a program where we talk about social issues from a biblical perspective. So yeah, you're going to hear about God in this. If that offends you, you can turn it off. But, do we deserve the mercy of God? No. That's why it's called mercy, right? But there have been a lot of people in this country that have fought and died for the country, and they have given their lives. Our forefathers were, for the most part, godly men and women. Hi, Shane. Nice to have you again. There's my beloved Linda. So God doesn't just look at what's happening right now. He looks at what's happened over the past passage of time. And so God's form of justice is different than our form. So without going into that too much, I will just say that I believe that God has good things planned for America. Now, whether or not the United States will comply with what God wants or not, now that's another question entirely. So what's our job? Our job is to stay informed, to know what's happening, not to live in fear, not to be reactive, but simply to be the prayer warriors and the Jesus-loving people that God has called us to be, so that we can encourage others, so we can warn others. Yes, warning is something that's in the Bible. It's something God did. He actually commanded people to do it. Sometimes we get so brainwashed with whatever the largest part of the Christian culture is, we forget what the scripture actually says. Good morning, Shane. So let's get back to the Word of God. Let's get back to the truth. I don't know about you, but I just, when it comes to information, when it comes to things that are happening, I just want to know what's true. Okay, just tell me what's true. I can handle the truth, like the movie line says. You can't handle. Yes, I can. I can handle the truth, because the one I serve, whose name is truth. I am the way, the truth, and the life. All right, so today we're going to look at the Big C returns. You all know what the Big C is. Burning Man disaster and a most horrible admission, among other things. As you know, I can't put everything in the title. So the way this program is designed, until the Lord changes it, is that I do some research throughout the week. I don't spend 24 hours a day doing it. Because that's not my primary call. My primary call is to be a preacher. But we do research some stuff. So you will not maybe have to do so much. Try to pick the ones that we feel like on our heart are the important ones. And actually, there's too many to list them all. So I tend to limit those. Anyway, so if you don't look at the videos, if you don't follow through with what happens at the end of this program, I'm not trying to shame you. I'm just saying you're missing a lot. You really need to look at them. That's the reason we do the program, not just to hear Jim talk. Okay? Anyway, I hope you had a great Labor Day yesterday. As I said before, I said yesterday it was August 4th. It was actually September. So thank you, our listeners, for correcting me. I do not mind being corrected, and I do not mind coming on and saying, three little words, I was wrong. That's a little thing, but All right, so we're going to jump right into the links. I want to, before, we're going to talk about the Big C, okay? If you don't know what the Big C is, figure it out. I don't want to intentionally get thrown off, but at the same time, I'm not going to worry too much about it. I feel like I'm mostly past the point of being concerned. You have to understand there's not much point in doing the program if it gets erased. So, yeah, but at the same time, everybody, if you're like me, sick and tired of being shut down. So, anyway, Linda, God bless you. Nice to have you. So, I want to initiate a principle without going deep and preaching long time, and all that. I want you to understand something about the way the system of our government and the other governments work. And I'm not going to explain government in general, but just one simple thing. It all comes down to force. So What do you mean by that? Okay, I'm going to say it one more time. It all comes down to 6 words. It all comes down to force. Rules, laws, mandates, commands. It doesn't matter what you call them if they are not enforced. There's that word force. To enforce. Hi, Isaiah. Love you. Take care of that boy. Okay, so to enforce means to forcibly make something happen, all right? If a rule, if a mandate, okay, something that's mandatory will not be forcefully, force you to do it. Something that is mandated basically has to be backed up by force, or the mandate is essentially worthless. Now, mandates are not laws, and laws are not... Anyway, I want you to see something before I show you this first video. You have a choice whether to comply or not to comply with rules and regulations and mandates based on whether or not you can be forced to do so. Either forced to comply or forced to be removed, forced to be isolated, put in jail, physically restrained. So actually I should add the word physical. It all comes down to physical force, what I wrote here. Okay? Let's say someone makes a rule. You don't want to do that rule. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying in general. And depending on the level of the importance of that rule and how much the rule maker says it's important that you comply, will enter in a consequence if you don't do it. I'm not trying to be super technical in the way I'm speaking here, but you need to understand. So if you don't do what you're told, it doesn't make any difference until somebody comes, okay, and someone with physical force. I want you to understand what I'm talking about, physical force. I'm not talking about somebody coming and saying, hey, reasoning with you, you really should do this, we really want you to do this, and so on and so on. If they have the capacity to put you in handcuffs, that's physical force. If they have the capacity to throw you to the ground, if they have the capacity to wrap their arms around you and subdue you and put you in a paddy wagon and take you away, if they have the capacity to put you in a cell, physical enforcement. It always comes down to that. Now, there are some things that should be physically enforced. Absolutely. Violence, okay, when perpetrated upon someone, some innocent person, absolutely. We want someone to be able to come. I may not be strong enough to stop 5 guys that are out there beating up another guy, but the police officers, they are policing the situation. They are law enforcement. They are going to force the keeping of the law. They can't necessarily make someone keep the law, but they can prevent them from breaking it. You get that? It's all about who has the power to enforce, to force someone to do what they say you ought to be doing. Is that clear? Okay? Now, so I may not have the strength to stop 5 guys beating up another guy, but the enforcer, the law enforcement officers have weapons, that's force, okay? They have strength, hopefully, that's force. They try to subdue. They have a stun gun. They have whatever. They restrain them by putting handcuffs. You get what I'm saying? It comes down to force. That's why we have a military, right? We have a military because there are people, if we didn't have one, that would say, that's my country. Yeah, that's my country. Yeah, okay. You get what I'm saying. Now, why is this important? Some countries have heavy-handed enforcement, okay? So it's probably a really good idea that you smile at your neighbor, that you wave, that you do something good for them. If you see someone that's suffering, take them a bag of groceries. It's probably a really good idea that you do that, but it's not necessarily a law, okay? Enforcement will step in and make you do that. So do you understand there are degrees, okay? The mandates that come out with a big C, the things that they say you have to do this, are not laws. However, they have in the past, Debbie, God bless you, I'm going to go into this, it's going to be the main thing today. They have in the past abused their authority to apply force in order to get people to do what they want them to do. You cannot always apply force, okay? when somebody says everybody's got to do this, they either make that a law, which is enforceable, or it is not enforceable. Okay? So, what I want to show you today, because this is on the rise again. Everybody, if you've been paying attention at all day, now, God bless you, you see the big C is on the rise again. Now, I'm going to tell you what I believe to be absolute truth. Now, not everybody has a bad motive. You've heard me say this many times. You can't put everyone in the same category. It's just stupid. You just can't. Okay? Don't do that. Don't be dumb. Okay? Not everybody's the same. Some people really, truly believe in what they espouse. Okay? Others are doing it for other reasons. I'm going to talk about those who are doing something for another reason. I believe the motivation behind the mandates of all kinds of things and the enforcement in some cases of those things is not, well, it's not necessary, but it really has to do with light versus darkness. Okay? So people will say, well, you got to get the jab, you got to wear the mask, you got to do this, you got to do that. This is on the rise again. Okay? Other countries have used their authority with a super heavy hand unto death. I'm not kidding you. Okay? Don't be blind. Don't be foolish. Know what you're talking about. There have been people that have been in, let's say, lockdowns, and I have been in communication with some of these people. Okay, not maybe directly, but indirectly. Locked in China. I'm not even going to give you links about China. China was the worst, probably the worst offender, in my opinion. Massive whole cities of millions of people locked down. Many of them literally doors welded shut so they couldn't go outside. Who cares if you have enough food to survive? I've got people from all over the world that contact me, that send me messages. There are people that literally starve to death. Now, I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but I'm saying that's an example of what happens when you have governance that is like authoritarian. They're going to make you do whatever they say, even if it's something like, don't cross the crosswalk when you shouldn't. Say, oh, Jim, that's crazy. Nobody does that. Actually, that's exactly what they're doing in China right now. Social credit scores, millions of cameras everywhere. You have no idea how many cameras there are. You get caught, facial recognition, it's super easy to do now. You get caught jaywalking, that's a ding on your social credit score. Just like you have a credit score for, buying a car or renting a home. Social. In other words, we're not just talking about money credit now, we're talking about your whole life. We're going to score you as to what kind of a person you are. And if you get a ding, then maybe you can't go to restaurants. Maybe that's your level of punishment. Because, as the crime goes, so goes the punishment. Or maybe you have to lose your job if you are rude to someone. You get what I'm saying. This is the totalitarian, authoritarian control that is already, right now, today, happening in the world. It's already happening. And I really, again, want to challenge those of you in the nicest possible way that say, well, it really doesn't matter. God says we're not supposed to be involved in politics, render unto Caesar, blah, blah, blah. All the excuses we say. So tell me, do you really want to live in a situation? You want your kids, I know people from Russia. Well, okay, let me clarify this. I know people that come from Russia with witness persecution, and I know people who know people they've drugged their kids out of their home because of Christ. Okay, stop being stupid. Stop saying it doesn't matter. Stop saying that it doesn't matter to God, and all He wants us to do is just to, sit around singing Kumbaya. It's not biblical. It's not scriptural. All right, so I'm not trying to preach here, but I'm saying, okay, wake up. Understand, God. If God's concerned about it, so should we. All right. I'm going to show you the links of what happened. We forget really easy what happened. This thing right now is on the rise again. Everywhere you go, you're starting to see it. The big C, it's coming back, We're all going to, it's time to mask up. It's time to get more jabs. This morning, and this is the one I got to be careful about, there is a reporting system, okay? A government reporting system, VARS. And it's a V, you get what V is, oh, I forget now what it's called. Maybe somebody else could, but it's about an adverse, oh, that's what it is. A is adverse reaction, I think it's system. It's a means to report adverse reactions to the B, the jab. Okay, so that was put in place back when someone created a B. There was a lot of, it took years, and if anything more than like 17 or something people had a bad reaction, they would stop it, they would trash can it until they could improve it, and so on and so on. Now that's not the case. Okay, so I went this morning trying to get on the BARS site in order to report to you the up-to-date reactions to the B. I could find it, but I had to, they kept jumping through hoop. Got to download the app, got to do this, got to sign off here, got to agree to this. In other words, that made it very, very difficult to find out. I will just tell you this, adverse reactions are in the tens of thousands. We're talking blindness, we're talking heart. Everybody's read about the heart stuff, people dropping dead all the time. Now, why am I saying all this? I'm not saying this so that to take away people's choice. I'm just saying the choices that we make ought to be based on the truth. That's all I'm saying. Just tell us the truth. Okay? All right. So we need to remember that I believe, okay, well, this, you don't have to remember this, but I'm telling you this, I believe that most of this is about control. Okay? Provide the V and say, here it is. If you feel, you know, I believe that those are untried and untested, and with the tens of thousands of people that have suffered up to death, many people have died. That ought to be known and ought to be made public. It ought to be easy access. Okay, I saw a video the other day where a gentleman whose son got the B and immediately went into the hospital because of heart issues. We're talking about a young son, and the guy was angry, and he calls the not the physician, but the guys who administer the pills. I forget what they're called. Anyway, he's asking this lady, he's saying, why didn't you tell, VAERS, yeah, I think that's right. Why didn't you tell my spouse when they called that this was a possibility? And the answer from the pharmacist was that, well, we don't want to scare people. So there's a bridge out. Well, we don't want to scare people. There's a fire coming. Well, we don't want to scare people. Are you intelligent enough to know that there's something more happening? Okay? It's not all, you know, every little bit of it is conspiracy and the devil. No, it's not. And it's not none of it either. Okay? You be intelligent, be smart, and so on. All right. So the reason for these videos, and I beg you to watch them. Now, a number of them are on what is now called X. I hate calling it that. I liked Twitter. I don't like X. Anyway, they're on X. Okay. If you don't have it, I don't think you have to get it to watch a single video, but I can't believe I'm even saying this, but I actually encourage people to get it, again, if you're able to handle it and not just spend massive amounts of time on it. Okay. It is actually a good source for information. Anyway, I don't think this one, so, but yeah, number one, and I should have wrote must watch on this. You need to watch number one, just at least number one. It is from Sky News, which is a pretty mainstream news agency in, I believe it's Australia, that is committed to telling the truth. They really are. And I think they do a good job of it. Okay, they don't try to cover up. They're not owned by someone who's telling them. You ever wonder, in one of these videos you're going to see, these guys will say the same thing over and over, every single one of them using the same phraseology, same title, and that's because, come on, use your brain, it's because their boss, that person sitting in front of the chair, in front of the camera giving the news, is not the boss. Come on. They have a boss, and their boss has a boss, and their boss has a boss. This stuff gets handed down. That's why hundreds of them say the exact... You ever wonder why that? You turn on the news, they're all doing the same thing. They're all covering the same program. It's not because they're all like telepathic. All right. Let me read this to you real quick. So this is from Sky News. During the pandemic, Australians were beaten, and these are not exaggerations, and they were one of the worst. Next to China, I think they were the worst. And this is a Democrat. China's communist. This is a democratic. They have elections. They're democratic, okay? So that's not the safety net necessarily. During the pandemic, Australians were beaten, sprayed with, shot with rubber bullets, arrested for not wearing masks, for protesting, and even for being members of the press, even some of the media. Despite its draconian policies, Australians had more excess deaths than Sweden, which did not even lock down. Over and over, we see that same statistic. It was almost like the crazier they got with their authoritarian methods of forcing people to do what they said is best for them, the worse it actually was. So in other words, it didn't help at all. You must watch that. It's a collage. It's kind of hard to hear you. I'll turn up the volume. It's a collage of some of those things that happen. Now, why are we saying this? Because you need to know that people do this, okay? Governments do this. Our government, to a lesser degree, did some of those very same things, okay? I didn't go looking for those and putting them on there, but they're not hard to find, okay? Times you've probably all seen them when people were arrested, people were accosted, people were thrown to the ground, people were manhandled, I have one picture, and I don't know how to put it on here, or else I would have, but it's a number of super famous people that you probably think are awesome. Well, I shouldn't say, I don't know what you think, but really famous people basically saying, going to the nth degree, okay? They don't have the power to force anything, but if they did, some people would be gone. They said, if you're not willing to take the jab, you should die. You should go to jail. You don't get a hospital bed, and on and on. And these are quotes that now they're like, I don't remember saying that. Okay. People in crisis do crazy things. Okay? And I'm going to say something. I know I'm only at number 2. I want to reiterate my stand on the big C. That's what I'm calling it today, the big C. And I believe I heard from the Lord I know I did, okay? I'll go to my grave saying I heard from the Lord on this. When it first started, I asked the Lord about it. I said, Lord, this thing is starting to ramp up. What's going on? So I want to know the truth. Tell me the truth. You said you are the truth. Tell me the truth. And I heard him speak very clearly. Yes, I heard voices. Okay. Sorry, I shouldn't lean into the crazy. But people don't believe God can talk to people. Anyway, he said 3 things to me. He said, number 1, he said, Jim, here's what I'll tell you. I'm not quoting, but here's what I'll tell you about the big C. He said, number 1, it's real. It's a real disease. It's a real sickness. He didn't tell me man made it, the devil. And no, that's another whole issue, okay? Man was involved, 100%. I said, it is real. It's not pretend. Don't listen to people that say it's not real, because it is real. Okay. Number 2, you don't have to be afraid of it. That was a big burden off me. I actually got the big C, and so did my wife, and it was horrible. 21 days of like nothing I've ever experienced. So I'm not saying it's not real. But I remembered what he said. You don't have to be afraid of this. And you know what? You don't have to be afraid of anything. I want to tell you right now, God said you don't have to be afraid of death. The granddaddy of all fears. You don't have to be afraid. Okay? The world's all saying, no fear, no fear. They put it on t-shirts. They put it on hats. They put it on posts. Don't fear, don't fear. Well, actually, we are supposed to be living that. Okay? Anyway, so he said, it's real. You don't have to be afraid. And then number 3, he said, but you do have to be concerned about the way that other people react to this. Now, as he was saying it to me, he said it right after you don't have to be afraid. So I thought he was going to say you do have to be afraid of the way, but he didn't say that. He said, but you do need, he used the word concern. You do need to be concerned about the way other people react to this. And I really didn't understand what he meant by that. But as time went along, oh my gosh, a couple years now down the road, people have lost their minds about this. I know Christians that are every bit as fearful as someone who doesn't know the Lord. Come on. Let's live what we say we believe. Okay? You don't have to say it's not real. And if you feel like you need to put something on your face, you know what? That's your prerogative. But don't be the crazy woman, like one of the videos I've seen, you know, yeah, walks in the store. I'm going on a rant and I don't want to do it. Okay. All right, so let's go on to number 2. The second one is very close to that. It's a woman arrested for not showing her B status. It's another one, and I just gave a few. There are dozens of them out there. Here's a woman who did not want to show whether or not she had got the jab or not. She was in a restaurant. They literally came out and arrested her. 5 police officers in a van that was created to be like a paddy wagon, no bigger than a closet, like a one-person closet. And here's this middle-aged woman, you know, kind of large woman, and she is, of course, fit to be tied. She's not done anything wrong, at least not in a moral sense. But the rule says you have to show your papers. You remember that old thing? Show me the papers. Okay. That country, now I'm going to make a statement here, listen close. That country came to the place where they were doing those things that we used to make fun of. Like back in Nazi Germany days, show me the papers. You can't, you know, move from one place to another. You can't go into the library. You got to show me your papers. Show me that you're, you know, part of the party and, you know, whatever. And we used to mock that and, you know, make fun of that in movies and stuff, which is sad because it actually happened. This happened in your lifetime. Again. Come on. Are you awake? Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not a game. It's not a joke. It's not pretend. It's not a theory. It's true. Okay? So that could happen here. I don't want that to happen here. I pray that won't happen. That's part of my job as an intercessor. Is I pray, God, please don't let this happen here. Okay? We don't need this to get holy. We don't need this to become better people. You know, we're supposed to be awake and to be a voice, not a violent, you know. We are men and women of peace, but we need to speak up. All right, that's number 2. Number 3, short clip of a lady, and this one actually is older. It's back from 2021, where this lady was a nurse, and she was told by those who were a little higher up, hey, it's gonna, the big C is gonna start next week. And she's like, how do you know it's gonna start next week? And the lady kind of pulls her glasses down, her superior, and says, you know how these things work. In other words, tongue-in-cheek, it's not about biology, it's about who's in control. All right, number 4, CNN has now come out, and even CNN, one of the most liberal, narrative-based sources of information. I say that because it's not about telling the truth, it's not about giving the news, it's about saying what we think you need to hear so that you can be like us and believe like us. Okay. It's gotten, I thank God for the internet. I thank God that He is blown up. Why did God allow, what did He say in the last days? He said that knowledge will increase. It says that in the book of Daniel. One of the earmarks of the last days, it says knowledge can increase. Well, honey, knowledge, we're in what's called the information age. I used to wonder why God let that happen. I don't anymore. Because Satan does what he does in secret. And now these things are coming out in the open. That's why so many of these individuals, they're not even trying to hide anymore. And yet, are you listening? Sometimes we're stupid enough to still not even believe. And I know, I don't like the word stupid. I use it too many times. We're foolish enough to not even believe it when they're telling you they're doing it. Okay? Come on. So I'm so glad that we're living in an age where truth is coming out. This is moving us toward the day where the Lord said, one day, no secret, there won't be any more secrets. Everything that's done in the dark will be brought to light. Everything. Okay? I think with the one exception of the sins that you've repented of, and God says, I won't remember them anymore. All right. So even CNN now, they can't hide it anymore. One of their guys comes out and asks Mr. F, Dr. Fauci, hey, all these studies are proving that the masks are not doing anything. What do you say to that? And he goes off with, maybe I'm just not smart enough. I don't know. But he goes out, blah, 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 all these big technical terms of blah, blah, blah. And he really is just gibberish. That's why I wrote it. It's just gibberish. He really didn't say anything. Okay? You know, when the truth comes out, you I don't know. Number 5. Who is Stanley Plotkin? I think I'm saying his name right. Now, I'm going to start out by saying this. And this is, again, to me, a must-watch. This is something you're not ever going to see on regular news, ever. Stanley Plotkin, and I don't want to... I got to be careful how I say this. I don't want to disparage this man because I don't know him. I know what he's confessing in front of a camera. But I also know what he's confessing in front of a camera. He probably was given permission. I'm sure he was given permission by governmental agencies to do. Okay, but you know, wife and kids, maybe he was a good man thinking he was doing a good thing. I don't know. But what he confesses to is absolutely horrifying. So, Stanley was a guy that worked developing the V, okay? He was one of the pioneers in developing the V. Now, I don't know if he had anything to do with the current jab, the C jab, or anything. That I don't know. But here, and that's not why I'm showing it. But what I'm trying to get you to see, here's a guy who's in front of a governmental thing. Right? Assume this governmental. It's an old black and white, and he's in front of the camera, and he's sitting there, and they're asking him questions. Did you test the V on children, babies, and pregnant moms? Yes. Did you test it on people in prison? Yes. And I don't want to misquote, but the guy who's interviewing him lists, you know, all these vulnerable people. Okay. Did you test it on people in the Congo? Yes. Now, no doubt those people were told something flowery and wonderful about it. Untested jabs, okay, in the past, tested on human guinea pigs. So, what am I saying? What's the point of that particular video? And again, most of these are very short. The point is simply this. People, when they feel like they are in the right, are willing to go to immoral extremes in order to accomplish their purposes. You've got to know that humanity has done this thousands and thousands of times. Just be aware. Just be smart. Okay? Yeah. All right. So let's shift away from that now to the Burning Man Festival. Some of you have heard of the Burning Man. Probably most of you have by now. Many of you maybe have not. So... I just want to go on record as to say Burning Man Festival is a demonic, wicked festival. Jim, just tell us the way you really feel. Okay, I will. So the media is really good at cleaning things up. So we got a pride parade, and there are people that are engaged in open of the gross sexual immorality that you can imagine on the street, in the parade. It's just true. Okay, and the pictures go on the internet for a while, and no, I don't recommend that you look them up, and then they're gone. So the way Burning Man is being, and I'll get to the point of this, what Burning Man is being postulated as right now is this wonderful festival of creativity and, you know, civic responsibility. I mean, they clean up to make it almost look like a family affair. It's not. Okay, it's not. It is basically a hedonistic gathering of people who just want to be able to see what society would look like if there weren't any rules, which frankly is a misnomer because they have their own set of rules. It just doesn't include things like open sexuality, drug use, you know, yeah. So it is bad, all right? I don't care if, you know, every celebrity says it's not, okay? People go there to get away with doing stuff they wouldn't normally get away with. Yes, there's creativity. Frankly, some of the things that people create, some of the artwork is really kind of stunning. It actually is, you know? But that's not what started it. So the essence of Burning Man is the culmination of the week to 10 days, depending, is when they have a giant man that's an effigy. I'm not sure what the effigy is of because different people say different things, but it's called the man, and I think that comes from, at least in my experience, you know, in the 60s we used to call government and governing agencies the man. Don't let the man get you, Creedence Clearwater Revival says. Okay, the man. What's the man doing? You know, don't listen to what the man says. You know, Paul McCartney. Anyway, so I think it is a symbol of burning down the man. Okay, we want to do, this is what it would look like if the man wasn't in charge. Okay, I think that's what it means. So, ultimately, it's really evil. Now, I know Christians who have gone there to minister, and I think that's fabulous. Hi, Teresa. No, I really do. I think going into wherever, you know, go into the gates of hell. If you feel like you can go in there and handle it and preach to people, and I know some people that have gone in and done spiritual or dream interpretation and got people saved. So, yeah. And I'm not saying every single person that goes there is evil. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's not a good place to be. And we do the same thing with Rio. What's the festival called in Brazil? Same thing. Or in New Orleans, Mardi Gras. These are wicked things. They are. The people go there to get sloppy drunk, to use drugs. I mean, we're talking about advertising free sexual account. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's no place for a believer unless you're there trying to win the loss. And even then, you better get your armor on. All right. So what happened? Well, pretty simple. It's done out in the desert. If you look at some of the pictures, it's pretty amazing. We're talking anywhere from 70 to 100,000 people gather. It's like they create a city. You know, if you look at the aerial shots, it looks like this, you know, all these kind of crisscross, you know, like neighborhoods in a big semicircle, and in the middle is called the playa. Sometimes the semicircle grows to a whole full circle. Anyway, the center is where everybody goes to show off their creativity and their wares and whatever, and they give each other free food, and yeah, nobody sells anything. That's probably a good thing. But anyway, what happened this year? Well, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. The Lord happened. I believe it. I believe it. I don't care if you do. I mean, I respect your opinion. You don't have to agree with me. But the rain came. First time ever that I'm aware, at least the rain like this. They said they got enough rain in 1 hour to equal what they get all year or something like that. Don't quote me on that. It was a deluge. Okay, they say it was what was left over from, or a part of Hillary. I almost said Clinton. Hurricane Hillary, Tropical Storm Hillary. So anyway, they got washed out. They actually got stranded. Their own, you know, festival. That's such a mild, nice name, isn't it? Anyway, said no, you can't leave. People that tried to leave got stuck. Some people walked out. Okay, some celebrities walked out. But basically, they closed down the roads, so everybody's stranded. And now, I didn't put this in because I didn't have time this morning, but now apparently the sun's come out a bit, things have dried up, and people are leaving en masse. We're talking like 6 lanes. It's out in the desert, there's no road, right? Driving across the desert sands, like 6 lanes of you know, RVs and so on. So anyway, why am I saying all that? I don't know, because it's news, I guess, but yeah. Moving on. Are you still with me? Soulsby, and there are, yeah, there are actually, Linda. And so I just want to emphasize that I believe in that. I believe in going to the jowls of hell, you know, and if that's what it takes to win the loss, I do believe that. All right, but if you're going there to be entertained, okay, don't. Okay. Number 1 under controlling the weather. I only have 1 link. So, no doubt some of you, if you've made it this far through the program, most of you are not going to identify with what I say right now, but there are going to be some who do. I know there are some people, no matter what, they're always just going to trust Walter Cronkite or CBS or NBC or CNN. If it's not mainstream, if it's not the legacy meaning they've been around for a long time, if it's not the alphabet news, they won't believe it. Okay? All right. Good. All right. Well, it's not good, but here we go. 9 years ago. Are you ready? You heard me talk recently about lasers. There are people that are talking about maybe the fires that have started back in Paradise a couple years ago and in Maui right now and in other places have been started by what we call letter DEW, which stands for Directed Energy Weapons, okay? They're real. They're not fake, okay? I showed a clip from a guy from the Pentagon on national news talking about direct energy weapons, and how that, you know, some other foreign countries have them and have used them, and that we have them too. It's not a myth, okay? So 9 years ago on CBS, for those of you who need CBS, I forget her name. I forgot to write down her name, but she's still doing news today. I don't know if she's an anchor on which channel, but they're interviewing one of these guys about this, and she's going, because 9 years ago, lasers were still kind of in the theoretical, you know, realm in most people's minds. And this real famous scientist, you'll recognize him. He looks like he's maybe from an Asian country or that ethnicity or whatever, gray hair, super smart guy. He's saying, oh yeah, we've been doing this for a while. Okay. Why am I putting that one in there? So that you can know, okay? So that when people say, that's just a conspiracy theory, you know, you can go, hey, it's not. It's not. People, you remember the old saying that says ignorance is bliss? People like to be ignorant. It's less troublesome, okay? Well, and again, I know I sound like I'm on a soapbox and I just repeat myself all the time. I believe that we Christians have been the worst at this. You know, if God can't get his household to speak up against evil, he will find someone else who's not a part of his household. We've seen this. I thank God for the various conservative media outlets who have been quick to stand up and say evil is happening and it's not okay. Okay? Christians did that. They used to do that. I'm talking all the way back to the first century. Even Jesus, you know, at least at one time, you know, he says, when they was talking to him about Herod, the leader of his country, he said, never say, no. He said, you go tell that fox. He called him a fox. That was a pretty harsh thing for the day. A fox was not a good thing, okay? And of course, then there's a time he whipped, you know, he made a whip. Do you think when he whipped the temple, nobody ever got hit with his whip? That's a good question. I'm just saying, the Jesus that you've made him into is probably not the Jesus. Now, is he violent? Is he going around angry? Is he just, he's just a hothead and the veins are popping out of his? No, gosh, of course not. He is a man of peace. He is a man of joy. He is a man of love, but he's a man of truth too. And he's not afraid to say the truth. He did to the Pharisees, okay? We like that because they're the religious ones. So we like it when he talks harsh to the Pharisees. You bunch of snakes, he said, you whitewashed sepulchres. Anybody say that today? No, I'm not going to say it because I'll get thrown out of wherever I'm speaking. But listen to me. Don't turn him into what you think he ought to be. Don't do that. You'll wind up in a ditch if you do that. All right, I'm preaching. So let's go on. News of ever encroaching AI. We've been talking about AI a lot. I'm not going to go deep into this, but there are two things here about AI. It's advancing. That's my point. It's encroaching deeper and deeper into society. All of the, well, not all, almost all of the developers of AI are scared witless right now. They really are. They're already saying, some of the top minds, even the one or two top minds, are saying it's pretty much already out of our control. Okay, why? One of the reasons why is because they have a self-teaching algorithm or whatever it's called, that's probably not the right term, built in where it teaches itself by gaining more information, by learning, okay, I did this, it didn't work, okay. So it's advancing without necessarily any parameters put on it. All right. So a couple just quick examples. AI is now this is military, okay? How many think it's great that the military is now using AI? Okay, let me read it real quick. The U.S. Special Operations Command, that's the military, has contracted New York-based ENCROACHING, I think is how it's pronounced, ENCROACHING AI to deploy software, they're already doing it, that detects, quote, real-time disinformation. Okay, so now the military is going to monitor what, because we put the information into AI, what they consider disinformation. Well, who gets to put in the AI what disinformation is? Okay, and it's the company's, the company's detection system, AI software, analyzes social media that accurately captures emerging narratives and generating influence reports for military forces to speak. Listen to this. So it says they gather this information and give it to military reports so that military forces can speedily neutralize. That means put a stop to disinformation threats. Do you realize what I'm telling you right now could be considered by AI disinformation threats? Okay, now, regardless of what you might think, there are probably not people sitting listening to my program or somebody else's program to decide what's disinformation. They have catchwords, they have phrases, so on and so on. Yeah, all right, that's happening. Military, great, it's awesome news. Number 2, here's another one where Call of Duty, you know the game Call of Duty? Anybody out there play Call of Duty? So they are right now have put into their systems for Call of Duty, well, let me just read it so I don't misquote. Shooter video game Call of Duty has started using AI. They're doing it to listen for hate speech during online matches. Okay, how are we going to start this? Well, let's put the chip in the dog first. Okay, let's do it this way. Let's use this AI in what seems to be a really kind of non-threatening. Let's put it in our video games, the ones all of our kids they're turning their minds to mush, watching thousands of hours of and living out their destiny with God, I'm sure. Anyway, machine learning, that's what I was saying before. Machine learning is what allows AI to learn and adapt on the fly as it goes, without explicit human instruction. Does that raise red flags to anybody? I want to read it again. Machine learning, that's what it's called, is what allows AI to learn and adapt on the fly without explicit human instruction. Okay, recognizing patterns and so on and so on and so on. They say, we do this, technology officer Michael Vance says. Thank you, Michael, for clarifying. Here's what he says. Oh, this stuff just, I have to laugh at it, you know, because there are people that are dumb enough to just believe whatever somebody says. Okay, I mean, anyway. Michael Vance says, it would help make the game a fun, fair, and welcoming experience for all players. Hey, it's always this. This is good for you. You don't know it yet, but this is good for you. It's not dangerous. There's no way this will get out of control. There's no way this will ever turn into anything other than fun, fair, enjoyable experience for you. Okay, so let me move on. I gotta quit here. Sorry, rubbing my eye. Got something in my eye. This is a sobering one, and I saw this. Thought you might want to know about this. You know, Russia has a weapon. Now, a lot of the stuff you hear about these guys is what we call saber rattling. We're gonna do this. You know, remember Saddam Hussein? Some of you are old enough. We will start the mother of all wars. I love the way they come up with these flowery statements to make you afraid. And so they call it saber rattling. You know, even the children of Israel did this. They'd come out and Philistines on one side, Israel on the other side, and the Philistines would roar and shout, and make a lot of noise, and put their spears up and down. You've seen it in the movies. And then the Israelites would do the same thing. And okay. So a lot of these times, these opposing powers, it's called saber rattling. They're just making a big fuss to intimidate each other. But then it can escalate. It can move on to something that turns into an actual physical conflict. Hey, bro, Steve, nice to have you. All right. So, long story short, Russia has, because they have stages, right? It's like we have DEFCON 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, and you get to the, like, I think it goes backwards. DEFCON 1 is like imminent war or something. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But they have moved their missiles, so they have, Russia's developed a nuclear weapon. Actually, I believe it's a weapon with multiple nuclear warheads on its tip. Again, don't quote me. I cannot gather enough information sometimes. Anyway, guess what they call this weapon? I know there are people saying, hey, Putin's a good guy. He's trying to stop the biolabs. He's trying to do this. The Nazis. Okay, you know what? I don't know. All I know is that in the past, the man's been a butcher. Okay, maybe he's turned over a new leaf. Maybe he hasn't. I don't know. I don't really care. What I care about is people using nuclear weapons on each other. Okay, I'm not trying to minimize. All right. So guess what he called this nuclear weapon that can fly? Are you listening now? 11,000 miles. They say it can get from where he's at to here in a matter of minutes. Okay, that's a big deal. That's kind of a big deal. Don't worry about it. It'll never happen. Sure, I wonder if Hiroshima said that. I wonder if Nagasaki said that. Oh, that was no big deal. You know, we're called to suffer anyway, so let's sing Kumbaya. I know I'm being sarcastic. I am. But I get so tired of hearing the ridiculous things people say that are so not common sense. Anyway, he has moved. They call the weapon Satan too. Okay, just for clarification, anything you name after the devil ain't a good thing. I don't care what it is, okay? They call it Satan too, and they have moved it, here's the point, to combat ready. Now, if I understand combat ready means, it means they're set up, they're pointed at whoever, and their finger is hovering above. I'm just, you know, I don't know the technicality of what combat ready is, but I know it is a fearful thing. It's not good. Okay, so it's either him pushing his saber rattling right up to the edge to say, hey, I really mean this, I really mean business, you better believe me, or so it's a bluff, or else he actually will do it and intend to do it. No matter how that plays out, no matter where that missile goes, no matter what happens, we have not had a nuclear weapon used on an adversary, in my understanding, since Nagasaki and Hiroshima. It was so frightful, so horrifying. It was unleashing hell on earth. Okay? If there's anything that could be called hell on earth, that was it. We haven't had it since then, to my knowledge. The first person that does that could unleash untold. It could unleash a global level of suffering that nobody can even imagine. So, anyway, something to pray about. Ask the Lord, intervene please in Jesus' name. What about the Donald? This is one that I'm not going to go into too deep, but you should watch it. I believe that Tucker Carlson is a man who is committed to finding and telling the truth. Whether he always does it, whether he's always accurate. I watch, you know, people say this, I don't want to be critical. I don't watch Fox anymore because blah, 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 and this person owns it, and they're compromising. Okay, whatever. Do what you want to do. He's not on Fox anymore, and that's probably, you know, makes your argument true. Okay, but go to where the news is true, okay? If you hear something true on Fox, then take it. If you hear something true on CNN, take it. You're not going to hear a lot. I wouldn't waste my time. Okay, that's what I'm saying. All right, anyway, I believe that Tucker is one of those guys that tells the truth. He is talking and he is postulating this, but I believe that he's accurate in the fact that he's saying this is a super real possibility. He asked the Donalds in an interview, do you think you're going to be killed? And he skirts around it, but Trump actually, or excuse me, Tucker actually comes out and says this man could be assassinated. This man could be taken out. 100%. You know, there are people that would do it if they could today. Okay, so why am I saying all this? You should watch that one and then pray for him. You're commanded to pray for people in authority. And if Donald Trump isn't a man in authority, then I don't know who is. He's like one of the most famous men on the planet. And he does wield authority by the fact that he has so many people that listen to him. Authority isn't just a position. It's influence. And yeah, the guy's got influence. So pray for him like you're supposed to. Number 2. Okay, this is important. Again, this has to do with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is being charged for something that nearly every other media personality, governmental leader, okay, has said. Pretty much this is not a blanket truth, but pretty close. Pretty much every election has been challenged. It's not some big new phenomenon, okay? Every election in my lifetime, the people that lost challenged it, okay? It's considered a part of the game. It is. It's always been something that happens. Now, it never happened in a more divisive and turning into violence kind of a way than when Donald Trump was elected president. This is the one must-watch video. If you don't watch anything else, you must watch this one. Down here towards the end. This is all of these guys doing what they're trying to put the former president in jail for. Basically, him and 18 other people who were simply like his attorneys and so on. They're saying he knew the election was right and true and he said it wasn't, so he has to go to jail. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with them looking for a way to put him in jail so he can't run for president. I said this the other day. I put a link on the other day where the New York Times made the bold statement. Now, I really listen. This is unbelievable. Literally, they said this. It would be better, it's New York Times, probably one of the most prestigious news informational outlets in the world. It would be better not to even have elections than for Donald Trump to become president. Really? If you don't see that as demonic, there's no hope for you. I don't, you may not like the guy, but yeah, all right. Watch it. Over and over and over. All the way from Hillary Clinton, all the way down to, every newscaster again. Stolen, 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 stolen. The very thing they're trying to put him in jail for. Last two, one is about a public school teacher who became a public school principal. This is just a picture. You just need to look at the picture. Okay, so this is 5th grade school teacher Shane Mernon in Oklahoma, drag queen, LGBTQ, elementary principal. He's drag queen who performs for children and read books about gender, blah, blah, blah. Charged with child porn. I believe he was released from that, found not guilty or whatever, but definitely had some of that. Anyway, you want to watch that one or look at that one. It's just a quick picture. And then the last one I'm going to leave you with is a guy preaching. Actually, it's not the last one. It's a guy preaching about changing names. You've heard me say this before. One of the big strategies of the enemy is just change the name of something. Goes all the way back to the garden. Has God said? Is God really like this? Okay, we change the name from something that sounds bad to something that doesn't sound so bad, and it becomes acceptable. Watch that one. That's a good one. And then Florida Representative Kat Kamek, who is a straight shooter and one of the ladies that I like listening to, is saying, hey, this is not slowed down. This is still happening. We've had close to 7 million people. I'm telling you right now, it is nothing less than an absolute invasion of our country happening right now. And it's not good. It is literally all in the name of those who are in power getting elected. The idea, idealistically, people are going to come in, they're going to be so happy that Biden let us in, we're going to vote for them, and they're going to stay in power. That's it. You can gift wrap it in 100 different ways, but I promise you that's why this is happening. And the cost has been insurmountable. Is it 100,000 deaths now? I mean, look at 9/11. A couple thousand people died, and we went to war. We're talking 100,000 of our own citizens that died because of the fentanyl that has rushed into this country. And don't say it was that way before, because it wasn't that way. That's a lie from the pit of hell, okay? All right. That's it. I'm going to be done. Hey, I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Please take time to look at these links. They're important. Amen. And then don't fear, don't panic, don't freak out, don't get depressed. Take it to the Lord in prayer and share it with your neighbors. Amen. God bless you. Love you. And as always, give yourself permission to have a